Today in the studio, folks, I got a real badass, Pace Morby. What's cracking?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Folks, if you don't know this guy, you're about to at Pace Morby. He's the host of Triple Digit Flip, not the host, but the main people.
Yeah, it's like you want to call yourself a star. It's like people go, "What do you do
Yeah,
on the
the
show?"
star.
I'm like, I guess I'm the star of the show. It's such a
Yeah,
douchey thing to
yeah.
say, you know?
Star of the show.
I'm the star of Triple Digit Flip.
You and Jameel Damji.
Yep, Jamil Damji, myself, my wife Laura,
Is,
and his
is
sister Rahima. Yeah,
oh, so you're all on the show.
we're all on the show. It didn't originally start that way. It
Are
started
you
out
are
with just Jamil and I, and then they were like, "Wait, your wife is your realtor?" I go, "Yeah, I'd love to have her on the show." So she's been one of the four main characters on the show.
that show's brand new.
Brand new, seven episodes in, got renewed for season 2 and season 3. Number 1 trending on Hulu. Most
On
popular TV show on A&E right now, which is amazing.
on A&E. Folks, if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. I assume you're flipping houses
We do flips,
for
yeah.
at least triple digits.
We do triple digit flips, which is funny because it alienates a lot of people from like, oh, I don't know if I could get into like that big of a game.
Why
We do a
not?
lot of like low end flips too, and
Well, originally, I got hit up by a bunch of your people, your students, your fans, your followers, and they're like, dude, you got to get Pace Morby on your show.
wow,
For a while, it's been happening.
yeah,
I'm like, who's this Pace Morby character? So I started looking you up and I'm like, damn, this dude's legit, huh?
yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff.
Well, you're teaching people. You got a company called Subto.
Yeah, Subto. Subto.com is the name of our coaching platform. You guys don't need to go there. Anybody that's watching the show, you don't need to go there, but you guys could always follow me on Instagram, Pace Morby. The coaching program started after years and years and years of me just doing crazy stuff. Like Jesse Itzler was on your show. Bro, I can't even believe that I'm on here, by the way. You've had some of the biggest titans on the show.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm like Jesse Itzler. It's like, what's the challenge? What's the thing I want to overcome? What's the thing I want to do? Right. And I started taking people around in my car because I would see people on Instagram going, man, I wish I could get into real estate. I'm like, bro, it's not that hard. Jump in my car. I'll take you on an appointment. I'll show you what a meeting with a private investor looks like. I'll take you to an attorney meeting. I'll take you to a fix and flip. What do you want? And I would spend 12 hours a day with people. And then more and more people started asking me, hey, how do I get in your car? How do I get, that special treatment? I go, show up at Circle K at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning and I'll take you with me. And like the first weekend I did, I had 3 or 4 people show up. I go, perfect. You can all fit in the car. And then by the third weekend I did it, there was a line of 60 people lined up, like wanting to get in my car just because they wanted to feel what it felt like. Like they want to hear, feel, smell, touch. Like, what does it mean to be in actual real estate? You can read all the books you want, go to all the seminars. And so what happened is I attracted this tribe of people that are like, I'm a monkey see, monkey do type of person. I can't read a book and understand this. I need to physically touch something tangible. And so a lot of my people, my tribe, are the people that I've like physically taught. Here's how to do it. Right. And so those are the people that have been reaching out and saying, hey, get Pace on the show.
Yeah, they say you're kick ass at sales and closing and not just flipping.
Yeah, we a good closer. I think that comes from being maybe in a 12-person family. I have 12 kids in my family. I had to, vie for attention of my parents or something. Who knows where that comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, good closer.
Where did it all start?
Started in the business world. It started as a contractor. I grew up in a blue collar family. My dad's a contractor, still is a contractor to this day. And so I learned to work really hard. That's it. Like Saturdays, you want to earn 20 bucks Pace? You're coming with me. You're taping off baseboards. You're learning how to pull up carpet. You're doing all those kind of things. Age 8, type of stuff. Going to Boy Scouts, doing all those types of things. Just great parents, honestly. And learn to work hard. And unfortunately, with that working hard mentality, you also learn how to work with your hands and rely on exchanging your time for money. And so I found myself in my 20s running a construction company. Luckily, my construction company got the attention of Open Door and OfferPad and Zillow, and my company blew up. We were doing 25 million a year in construction sales for these big hedge funds. And I started doing a lot of renovations for other fix and flippers. And when I realized what fixing and flipping was all about, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get into this. So that was my avenue to get into real estate.
So, because I'm not big into real estate, never have been.
Yeah.
Um, I've always had questions like no money down.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, so you're teaching people it's legit. Like, you can literally put deals together with no money in your own pocket, no credit out of your own
Right.
to speak of. But I would assume you have to go put pieces together.
You have to put pieces together, 100%. And I
So
think
you have to
that's
find someone with the credit and with the money.
no, 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 no. Well, let's walk through a deal. Okay.
Okay.
I've got a deal here on Whispering Grove in Vegas. I love coming to Vegas because I stop by this house. It's one of these deals that it cost me nothing to get into the deal. So
I want all those deals, by the way.
oh, bro, I'll show you all the deals. I'm driving tomorrow. I drove up here. I'm spending a whole week in here. I'm driving up to Reno tomorrow to get another deal. And why am I physically doing it? Right? We've got 7 different verticals. We're doing multi-millions, and we're not nowhere big as you guys, but I don't need to be physically working in my business, but I love the showing people how to do it aspect of what I do. So the address, you guys can pull it up. Let's pull it up. Whispering Grove, 971 Whispering Grove Avenue in Las Vegas. Okay, let me tell you a story about this house. And I've got hundreds of these stories. 971 Whispering Grove in Las Vegas. I own it. You guys can look it up. Xavier is the seller. He's the homeowner. And he buys the property 2019. And when he buys the property, he's a veteran. So what do veterans get when they go buy a loan?
No money down.
They get literally $0 to the VA, and the VA will give them a loan for the house. So he goes and acquires a loan. The loan comes in and pays off the person who sold it to him. And now he owes whatever he owes on that property to the bank, right? So he starts making monthly payments. And Xavier gets a job opportunity in Denver like 2 months later. So young kid, 21 years old, just buys his first property, doesn't know what to do with the property. So what does everybody do when they want to sell a house?
List it.
Yeah, they list
Call
it.
a realtor.
Call a realtor. So Brad, if you have a house that let's say is worth $300,000 and you owe $300,000 on it, and you sell with a realtor, are you going to have $300,000 in your pocket?
No.
No. Are you going to be able to pay the bank the $300,000 you owe them if you sell it for $300,000?
Not quite.
Not even close. It's about the average cost to sell a house through a real estate agent is 8% in the nation.
Not to mention banks are only going to loan a certain amount, right?
The VA gave him 100% purchase on the home.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the VA gave him 100% purchase on the home. So he buys it for nearly $300,000. He has to get out of the property 2 months later, and he goes and hires a realtor.
Why doesn't he just rent it?
Great question. I just answered this on my Instagram. Sellers are not real estate investors. They don't know what it's like. Why don't I start my own light speed? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to
Yeah, but it's not the same thing, dude.
Okay,
Like to me, common sense says, I'm going to move. I still own it. What's my payment? Let me get 1,000 more than that. Put it up for rent. As soon as somebody credible comes in, I'll rent it and I'll make a G cash flow and I'll go get another house. We're in Dallas or wherever the hell he's going.
So this is a great question. Anytime I'm on the phone with a seller and I'm closing them, I always disqualify them. I go, why aren't you just Airbnb-ing this? Why aren't you renting it out yourself? Why aren't you listing with a realtor? Because I want to get all the black swans out of the way, like the unknowns. I want to get them out of the way before it comes down to decision time. So I asked Xavier this exact question. Why don't you just list it yourself? Well, I did list it. I couldn't sell it. The realtor kept telling me I was going to have to cut a check to get rid of the property because commissions, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you just rent it? He goes, bro, I don't have time. I've got a job opportunity in Denver. I can't manage a rental. Most people are fearful. Even people that are real estate investors, the wholesalers and the fix and flippers, they're deathly afraid of owning real estate that they don't live in.
How many of those deals do you think you can find?
5 a day, just for my Instagram.
Just like those deals.
Just like this.
Dude, I'll take them all, wouldn't you?
I do.
When do you not take them?
I don't take them when they're outside of my buy area.
Do you ever find like multi-million-dollar homes in that?
Yeah, I have my favorite property I own is 75 Maddox in downtown Atlanta in Ansley Park. It's a $1.5 million home, 8-bed, 5-bath. I took it over seller finance. Seller wanted too much money for it, but I gave her $0 down, and I take over the property, and that thing brings in $22,000 a month roughly in Airbnb income. After my payments, my debt service, all that kind of stuff, I net about $8,500 a month on that one property. Didn't have to get a loan.
What's nuts is the lady could have done that.
But I could call her right now and go, why? And I will if you want to do that.
Yeah, she'll say, I don't want to deal with it.
No, Jillian. Here's why Jillian wanted to do it. Well, let me finish the story about Xavier because I'm sure the audience is like, tell me what happened with Xavier. So I get on the phone with Xavier. I disqualify him. By the way, I do all of this on live Zoom. Okay, so my students, the reason why they're like, you got to have pace on, and I have this tribe, is because I don't just teach people. I show them. I go, okay, you have a lead. Let me just call the seller. Let me work through the process. Let me do everything for you on a live Zoom with 600, 800, 1,000 people watching me live,
Yeah.
right? Because that's really the only way I could learn, right? There's no way I could have learned how to do construction or do any of that stuff through watching a video. I had to go physically do it. So I get on the Zoom with Xavier. I'm on a phone call and all my students are watching on Zoom. I disqualify all of those things. Xavier, why don't you just rent it out yourself? You go, dude, I'm going to be at a job. I'm 21. Like, what do I know about renting out properties? What do I know about managing tenants? What do I know about what if a roof leak sprung and I don't have the capital to fix it and I got a tenant now pissed off at me, right? Those are all the reasons why sellers don't end up turning around and renting out a property. Now, the other thing I tell my students or I tell anybody out in the real estate world is I say, dude, you can't put your brain in the seller's head. Like these sellers are not us. They don't want to own real estate. They bought a property. That's the only property they'll ever own. So Xavier's like, well, what solutions do you have for me? Because I've listed it twice with real estate agents. I've been under contract with wholesalers. You know a lot of wholesalers. In fact, you had Cody Sperber on here. You've had a lot of wholesalers on here. Ryan Pineda. These guys are wholesalers, right?
Are they?
Yeah, they're wholesalers. They wholesale and fix and flip. Yeah.
Yeah, because Pineda's a flipper.
Yeah, but he wholesales.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does whatever he runs into.
Right. You get a lead and you decipher what do you do with it.
Because you're a wholesaler if you found one.
Right. We wholesale probably 12 deals a month. Right.
Yeah.
So
Anyone that's just wholesaling, I think is probably just getting started. Because
that is correct. Because it's the low hanging fruit. Right. And you can wholesale creative finance deals like this deal from Xavier. I'll tell you where it came from, what happened. So I tell Xavier, I go, look, your real estate agent's going to make you cut a check to get rid of the property. Why don't you just let me take over your payments? It's a Wells Fargo loan. He goes, you can do that? I go, yeah, I can do that. We go to a title company. We tell the title company, transfer the deed from Xavier's name to my name. So now the deed has been transferred to me. Go pull it up. My name is on the deed. And if you go look at the mortgage history, the mortgage is still in Xavier's name to this day. So I have my bookkeeper make the payment every month to that debt, just like I would if the loan was in my name, but the loan's not in my name. I didn't have to assume it. I didn't have to qualify for it. I didn't have to call the bank. I didn't have to do any of that stuff.
plus your credit's still unencumbered.
Completely unencumbered.
What about depreciation? Do you get the advantage
I
of
get
that?
all the because I hold the deed, right? So there's something called
So does he cease to get the tax benefits?
he's not the owner. I'm the owner. He's no longer the owner.
What if you don't make the payment or you make the payment late?
Great question. So what I tell people, I go, look, worst case scenario, if I default, I deed the property back to you and you take the property back over after I've made years of payments and paid down the mortgage and all of those types of things. And it's a cash flowing asset. A lot of times what'll happen is I'll get sellers that go, well, I'm really uncomfortable giving you the deed just in case I have to like foreclose on you or something along those lines. I go, okay, great. Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to get really into the weeds on this. We can do something. It's not called subject to, and it's not called seller finance. It's called an agreement for sale. It's kind of like with a car, right? If you have a car payment, who holds the title when you have a car payment?
Bank.
The bank does until you pay off the car. But with a house, that's not how it works. You hold the deed in your name, even though you owe a debt to the bank. Okay, so I can transfer the deed to whoever I want, whenever I want, and keep that debt all in that one location, right? So I can deed the property back to the seller if I default. And the way we structure that paperwork is it says if I ever default, the deed automatically goes back to you with a document called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. It's a document. Okay, the seller holds it. So Xavier's like, "Are you serious?" I go, "Yeah, Xavier, but I don't want to take this house. Like you said, you were going to have to write a check to that listing agent to list that property. So why don't we do this? If you pay the closing costs on this deal, I will take the property off your hands." He goes, "Okay, what does that cost?" I go, "Title company, Chicago Title here locally is who I use. They charge $3,500, right? So they take the deed from his name to my name. They set up all the paperwork. That costs $3,500. So I had Xavier pay that fee. I got the house completely for free. And then there was an issue. The issue was that I had that lead come from somebody else. So I had to pay somebody for that lead. I paid the gentleman that brought it to me. His name's Dylan. I paid him $5,000 for it.
Damn.
Okay. So Dylan made $5,000 assigning a deal to me, creative finance, that had zero freaking equity, no equity whatsoever. He gets paid $5,000 bringing the deal to me. how did I pay that $5,000? Because this is a true zero out of pocket deal. I had
You probably factored it into the first year's rent.
no, I had Xavier pay the fee.
We came up with 8,500 anyway.
Right.
That's why they call you a closer.
Right. So, but he was
because if I was Xavier, I'd have said, Pace, I ain't paying shit.
right. But I'll tell you another story of a house.
Would you have taken it if he said, I ain't paying shit? You
all
pay
day,
everything.
all day I would have taken it.
So he could have got a better deal.
He could have got a bit better deal all day long. But here's the thing is like when you're performing, and you know this as a closer, when you're performing in front of an audience, you get that dopamine or whatever it is, and you just are elated in that state. And so I go, what guy, I put it on mute, my phone on mute. I go, hey, students, watch how far I can go. The worst I can hear is a no. And I'm showing them like the worst you're going to hear is a no. So you got to go for the gusto, right? So I go for the gusto and he goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And my students are just on Zoom, just filling up the chat like, oh my gosh, how is this even possible? So what did I do with the property? It's an Airbnb. I rent it out for about $4,500 a month. The Wells Fargo payment that's in Xavier's name is like $1,200 a month. So after my Airbnb management company, because I don't manage this crap, I don't have the time for that. After their management fee, after the cleaners, after everything, property taxes, insurance, and even a buffer just in case something bad happens, I net about $1,200 a month on that one property. Okay. The coolest thing about that property, because of COVID, obviously our property values went up. I made like 80 grand in equity on the deal, but I also cash flowed 40 something thousand dollars on that thing since I've owned it. Right. So that deal came from a wholesaler who couldn't get the deal done. What the hell's a wholesaler going to do with that if they don't understand creative finance? Can't do shit with it.
Call me.
Call me.
Yeah, call you.
Right. So,
dude, I was gonna have this episode. Everyone call you. I'm gonna say, dude, call me.
Brad
me.
and I will
I'll
work
call
deals.
Pace.
Call Brad. DM Brad if you're a realtor. So here's what I tell.
Well, dude, no money down. Who the hell wouldn't take that deal?
Everybody will take. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are fearful. So on my Instagram this morning, I talk about another deal I'm doing tomorrow. And this girl goes, well, what do I do when I have the property? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you do when you have the property? You freaking rent it out. What are you talking about? That's how you get cash flow. That's how you make passive income. People are so afraid of responsibility.
And if you can't rent it out, I guess you're going to be down a month.
Right. I mean, think about all of these real estate investors. You think that they don't run into situations where they can't rent something out for a month or two?
Something happens.
Right. Something always happens.
Well, like the notes I'm writing down, number one, what about all the paperwork?
Paperwork's handled by a title company.
Yeah, but like you got to know what paperwork to sign.
Right. And so I own a transaction coordination company called constantclose.com. So Constant Close handles all my paperwork for me.
Can people use that?
Yeah, they can use Constant Close.
Because to me, it's like, shit, I want to call in the rest of the day, clear my calendar, and start looking for some properties.
Here's the thing is,
almost like treasure hunting.
It's not even that. It's people bringing treasure to you.
Well, who you got a bunch of people out looking for deals?
So think about everybody that Ryan Pineda teaches. Think about everybody that Cody Sperber teaches. Think about all these people that are getting taught wholesale and fixing and flipping. When they run into a seller that can't get their problem solved, guess what they do? They come to me and they go, bro, you're the fixer. I could tell you 100 stories, names, addresses, show you I'm the owner of all these properties. And when you hear the story, you're like, oh, holy crap. Why were these wholesalers not doing this themselves?
They didn't know to?
They didn't know to. It's the same reason why real estate agents don't wholesale.
Well, let's not put out this episode. We don't want to. We don't want to get a billion of them out there. Then the deals dry up.
If you guys are a real estate agent and you're or a wholesaler, DM Brad and tell Brad, hey, I've got a lead. I don't know what to do with it. Brad and I will handle that lead. I'll call the seller live and we'll do all that stuff. It'll be great.
Yeah, but don't really call me. Call you.
You call me. Well, we'll
DM Pace directly. Although again, I'm not shitting. I would take a couple. Here's my question for you before I go too far. Number one, how do I know if it's Airbnb-able? Let me keep going.
Yep.
How do I know if it's worth what the deal is?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know the freaking septic tank is not about ready to blow shit all over the neighborhood?
Right.
How do I know, like, oh shit, this is a money trap?
Okay, cool. So first one, how do I know if it's an Airbnb? We call this highest and best use. So when I see a property come to me, I look at that and I go, what's the highest and best use for that property? If it's a mobile home, it's not going to be an Airbnb, right? It's going to be like, I don't want to get into the weeds because I'll melt people's brains, but sometimes I'll acquire a deal and I now hold the deed. And what I do is I then seller finance it to somebody else because I'm like, I don't want to deal with the maintenance. I don't want to deal with the headaches. I'm going to be your bank, right? So we call that a wrap or we call that a seller finance, okay? So if it's a mobile home, I'm probably going to seller finance that to
And you
somebody
can
else.
do it even though someone else owns the deed?
Yes.
I mean, the loan, the mortgage?
Yes, 100%. I have a
Oh,
deal right now that has a first, a second, a HELOC, and it has an IRS lien on the property. I took all of that over and I turn around and seller finance that out.
you got any, like, $5 million properties, or is it, like, stay in the $300,000-$400,000 range?
It stays, my average property is probably about $400,000 because that's the areas that I focus on. I do a lot of multifamily in the mobile home park areas. So I'll take over mobile home parks. The last one I just bought was in Tucson, or not Tucson, but in Yuma. All these people moving over from California are like, dude, we can't afford it here anymore, but they want to be close to California, family in California. So they're moving over to Yuma. I buy a 35 unit mobile home park on seller finance. The seller's like, give me what Zillow says it's worth and you can have the park. I go, okay, great. If I come up to your number, Mr. Seller, would you be willing to give me terms? And sellers have no idea what the hell terms are. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know what terms means. And I say that word purposely because I want them to pause and go, what are terms? And so I tell this story. It's like a famous story. Everybody that's heard my pitches knows this story about the F-150. Have you ever heard this story? Okay. So when a seller says, well, what is seller finance? What is terms? What does all this mean? I go, okay, Mr. Seller, Jillian. Okay. Jillian was the name of the seller. Let's go back. Let me tell you what terms means. I had an F-150, 2005, it hit 320,000 miles on my F-150. And it was time for me to sell that truck. So what do? Just like anybody else, I go to Kelley Blue Book. What's this bastard worth, right? So I go on Kelley Blue Book, says the truck is worth $5,000. And I'm like, dude, if I throw anything on Craigslist right now, I'm not getting $5,000. I'm going to get $3,500 because some guy's going to lowball me with a cash offer. And I always tell the sellers, I go, does that sound similar to what's going on with you? You go to Zillow, you say you want this price, then you get all these wholesalers lowballing you because they're cash buyers. Does this sound familiar? They go, oh my gosh, yeah, exactly. So this is what I did. I'm belligerent. That truck made my construction company a lot of money. So what I did is I put that truck on Craigslist for $10,000. Just like you're putting your house on the market for full retail and you demand top dollar. Have you gotten any offers? Well, no, not yet. Okay, you haven't sold it, right? And they go, yep. So what's the market telling you? The market's telling you it's not worth 10,000. Just like my truck wasn't worth $10,000. Do you think I sold that truck? No, you didn't sell that truck. You're right. I didn't even get a call about it. So my wife comes in 3 months later. She goes, Pace, you got to get this stupid truck out of our driveway. Like, what are you doing? I go, babe, what do you want me to do? Throw it on Craigslist for $5,000 and get lowballed? Like, I would rather just let somebody in the family drive it or give it to one of my guys on the crew. That would bring me more value than getting lowball. And she goes, you're the creative finance guy. Why don't you throw it on Craigslist and say you'll take payments for it? I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? So I go back to Craigslist. I change one thing. I say F-150 will take payments. Did I sell that truck for $10,000?
Probably.
I sold it for $12,500 because I had 30, 40 people reaching out to me. And I'm like, highest bidder, person with the most money down. So I sell it to a guy. He's a painter, at $1,000 down. And I gave him basically a promissory note for $11,500. And I made him make payments to me for 5 years. So 3 years, sorry. So I sold that truck for 2.5 times its actual value because I was willing to give that guy something that he needed, which is terms.
Yeah, but that's a dangerous one because the truck could disappear.
Okay, it could, but
Houses can't.
there's very specific insurance for, like Turo. Look at Turo. Everybody's renting their cars on Turo. There's very specific insurance for these types of situations where if the property gets damaged by a different driver, if the property gets stolen or whatever, the car gets stolen, the insurance will cover it even if it's another driver other than yourself, right? So we got the proper insurance to keep me from that situation. Knew where the guy lived, had a promissory note, got money down, all that kind of stuff. But when I tell stories to the sellers this way, they go, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll sell my mobile home park to you on terms. So that one in Yuma, zero down, zero. Brad, this is the crazy part. Zero down, 0% interest on that mobile home park. $600,000 purchase. That property nets me in my pocket about $7,000 a month, every single month.
You're probably not going to find too many with equity though, because
Oh,
if I own
I
the
find a
park,
lot
I want
of
my
equity.
equity out.
No, so my personal house, this is one that I'm going to melt some brains on. My personal house I bought on seller finance. I bought it for $3 million. The first mortgage is a Subto mortgage. So what does that mean? That means my seller had a mortgage already with Zion's Bank. Okay. $1.2 million. So I took over that debt without having to qualify for it. I just make payments to that. It's like $5,500. He has equity of $1.8 million. So I had him seller finance that to me. So I have two payments. I have a payment to the 5,500 and I have a payment to the seller finance.
And he wanted zero down?
I gave him some money down. He moved to Puerto Rico. Okay. So this is the mind melting part of it. $1 million of it would have been his gain. Okay. So he bought it for $2 million. He's selling it to me for $3 million. His $1 million gain would have probably cost him $400,000 or $500,000 in capital gains tax if we structured it as a real estate sale. But that last $1 million of gain, because him and I are in the same industry, we're both real estate investors, we set that $1 million up as an agreement called a consulting agreement. So now I pay him a payment towards that, and it's actually a write-off for me. Every month I pay that to him. It's a write-off as a consulting agreement. He lives in Puerto Rico, so when he receives that money, he pays 4% income tax on. These are crazy. Like, these are crazy things I don't teach anybody else to do. But we had our attorneys drafted up, and his attorney goes, "This is the most genius thing I've ever seen. You just saved $500,000 in capital gains tax, and when he receives the money, he'll only pay 4%. And when you make your payments, you're getting a write-off." Crazy.
Yeah, slick. So you would think somebody wants their damn equity out.
A lot of people do. So what we've done in the past, and we do this frequently, is we'll do a cash out refinance, right? So a seller's like, "I've got all this equity, but I want top dollar." So we go, "No problem. Let's do a cash out refinance. You get the cash out, and then I take over your existing loan and I make the payments on the loan." Simple.
So basically what you're telling me is I'm going to go to my bank. I'm going to get my own money out of this deal, max out the mortgage,
right?
And then you're going to pay that payment.
That's correct.
So I walk with my equity.
You walk with your equity, yeah.
Slick, you son of a bitch.
Right.
Let's do it.
Right. This is why people come to me and they go, "Dude, how I was forced into this situation," which is how I discovered all this stuff. And we don't need to get into that story, but I just learned it by necessity. And I'm like, okay, well, how far can I take this? So I buy a title company. I get involved with attorneys in my title company. The title company is a full-time attorney. I have 3 attorneys on staff. I'm like, let's spend 10 grand a month just discovering what can we do with this stuff, right? Traveling around the country, going to all 50 states. I then realized, wow, we could start a transaction coordination business, which I really don't make any money on that business, but it's just there to help a lot of people because the paperwork is baffling to people.
Is that constant close?
Constant close, yeah. So we built that just out of fun. It's like going back to Jesse Itzler. It's like, why the hell is Jesse Itzler still working? Why is he still doing cool shit?
Because he likes it.
Because he likes it. And it's the same thing with me. Like, why am I doing any of this stuff? I like it. It is so fun.
Well, not only that, but I mean, it's fun to help other people get out of their own way.
Right. Well, here's a situation. I'm buying a house in California tomorrow. Seller's meeting me in Reno to meet with me face to face. Her name is Leilani. Her and her husband buy a property in this past summer. Her husband gets COVID. He dies. No pension. He's the only breadwinner. She has no money. She can't make her payments on this brand new loan that they just got. So who's going to solve that problem?
You.
Me, of course, but real estate agent tried to list it, couldn't sell. She got offers on it, right? They get offers on these properties all the time, but they're 10 grand, 30 grand out of these sellers' pockets to write a check for the commissions and the closing costs to get rid of their property. So the seller goes, "I'm just letting it go back to the bank." So either A, it goes to foreclosure, or B, you let me take the leverage and I turn around and I Airbnb it, or I turn around and do a lease option, or I turn around and do whatever I do with it. Most of what we do is traditional rentals and Airbnb.
And the whole trick is to just get that deed transferred to you. And
title company or closing.
That's usually $3-4 grand to do that.
It depends on the state. You guys in Vegas are freaking expensive. $3,500 is really expensive for a deed transfer, but in Arizona, I could get it done for like $800-900. And that.
So let's say I want to move to Nashville.
Yeah.
Now,
bro, I'll find you a deal in Nashville. This is how easy it is.
I know, but I'm talking about an actual deal that I will live in. I don't want to rent it out, although I might. But
you might Airbnb it half the year, and then
I mean, but if you go find me like 400 grand, 300 grand, 600 grand and below, I'll rent those out in Airbnb them all day long.
Right.
I'm going to need a house that's around 6, so I don't think you're going to be able to find one.
Bro,
But if you can, I'm a taker.
love it. So again, my house, $3 million, 12,000 square feet, guest home, beautiful, all creative finance, 100% creative finance.
So you just call people you just call realtors?
So, no. What I used to do until I realized, and we started calling this the PACE method in Arizona, everybody started saying, oh, just start using the PACE method. And this is what it was. I used to do postcards and do all the things that every other wholesaler did, spend a ton of money on marketing. Then I realized, like, wait a minute. I can just go to all these other wholesalers and go, give me all your trash deals you don't know what to do with. And I'll just literally build my entire business out of your trash can. So all I have to do in Nashville, like it's this easy, especially with your reach and my micro reach compared to yours. I can send out Instagram stories, a couple of emails. I go, hey guys, I'm looking for something in Nashville. A lot of times what I'll do for people that want to find me a deal is I'll actually pull a list of houses. I'll pull a list of houses that are $6 million plus. And then what I do is I have the wholesalers call these sellers and go, hey, would you be open to seller finance? And then they bring the deals to me and they go, hey, the guy that wants to buy it, I'm going to set up an appointment with you. And I talk to the seller and I lock up the deal. It's that easy.
Is it very rare though?
It's not rare at all.
So like
Apartment complexes, mobile homes, mobile home parks, land, single family homes. All of this stuff is seller finance and creative finance all over the place.
you ever been picking mushrooms?
No, but I'd like to.
Well, I used to do it as a kid up in Oregon. There's mushrooms, the kind you trip on.
Right.
You literally grab a garbage bag, go out and pick mushrooms, fill up garbage bags filled with mushrooms, and those mushrooms are worth money.
Right.
How come everybody wasn't picking mushrooms? Well, number one, it was illegal. So other than that, though, this reminds me of that.
Right.
Other than that was illegal. This reminds me of that. It's like there's just shit out there sitting, waiting for someone to come and pick them.
Think about this. There's currently 5 million vacant homes in the United States right now. 5 million vacant homes. Okay. What happens in a lot of those situations is people, wholesalers, they're trained to find vacant homes and then they call the seller. What does the seller say? Seller says, I want top dollar.
Well, nine times out of 10, I don't know who the seller is. I got to call the damn realtor.
Well, either the
And
realtor
the realtor's a dick.
there's good data. That's the thing is there's data companies that provide all this stuff for you, right? So you don't really have to call anybody other than you can go directly to the seller. In fact, Brad, I do probably 1% of my deals off of the actual MLS. Everything else, 99% of it is direct to seller. We go directly to the seller. We're not negotiating through real estate agents.
Well, how do you get a hold of them? Just look them up?
So there's a company we use.
Because a lot of times they say, dude, I call my realtor. That's why I got a realtor. I don't want to listen to you people.
No, they don't have a realtor. They weren't even planning on selling the property in the first place, right? These wholesalers are hitting people up all the freaking time, right? So you asked the question, how do I know if it's an Airbnb? The Airbnb, what we do is we look at a company called AirDNA. There's a website. So you go to AirDNA, you put the property in there and you go, dude, it's crazy. It's like nowadays, you know this because you're in the tech business, right? You've got a business based on technology. It is so easy to figure things out nowadays that it's almost impossible. If you take any minute action, you will be successful. So you go to AirDNA, you put the address in the AirDNA, and AirDNA gives you an entire report on what this property will do for you. And you go, okay, I'm going to compare that income on the AirDNA to what my payment will be to the seller. And if there's a big enough spread, I'll take that deal on. Pretty simple stuff.
Dude, I should have been doing this for
I should have been, bro, I was a
years.
freaking contractor working for everybody else. I did 7,000 renovations, Brad, before I ever did one of my own flips.
Is that your song?
I feel like it. Honestly, the cool thing about it is that when you can walk into a situation, imagine being a sales guy. Like, sales guy, you need training, you need education, but what if you just have a tool that nobody else has? You win. You could be the biggest idiot and walk in and go, I can solve your problem. Transfer the deed over to me. That's it. There's two ways to do this. If they have an existing debt, that's called subject to, right? If they owe the bank money, that's called subject to. I buy the property subject to the existing mortgage, okay? But if they don't have a debt, then I have the seller finance it to me, right? So it's pretty simple. All of this is incredibly simple. It's just, and when people ask, well, where's this been? Why haven't I know about it? There's been guys teaching about this stuff for 60, 70 years. Look up Robert G. Allen, wrote a book
Oh
and
yeah.
phenomenal, wrote a book called Nothing Down. Finally just met him. You and 10 other people were on my like list of people to meet in the last 24 months. And I finally met Robert Allen in March of this year. He wrote a book in the freaking 80s
Oh
called
yeah.
Nothing Down.
I went to his house one time. I forget.
Up in Utah.
That was in Utah or
Yeah,
Phoenix?
Utah.
Oh, Robert Allen. Dude,
Robert Allen.
He's an old school dude.
He's a gangster, dude. And you know this? Do you know the story about that Nothing Down book?
No.
Okay, so real quick, for people that don't understand how gangster Robert Allen was, and I want people to understand that you can go back and find people who have been doing seller finance and subject to deals for a long ass time before I was born.
It's really just a matter of thinking.
Yeah, thinking for a second and going, what are people missing?
Because what you just said, like have them go get their own equity. Like I didn't even think of that. Because on occasion I'll get, and I need to do this because I got a little bit of money. So I mean, if you know, truly to find 000 is more rare than, you know, you can find some good deals if you got, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
grand to throw around.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'll get more of those than absolutely
Yeah,
zeros.
I call those the unicorn deals, right? I probably buy 2 out of 10 of my deals that I buy are 0 down, 0% interest. The other 8, my average is I'm putting about $20,000 to $35,000 into the house.
Yeah. So, you know, and I got that. So I'm like, hey, man, maybe I can start flipping and tripping. But I always think to myself, and which has always stopped me, well, what about when they've got like half equity and shit? I don't want to give them that much money. And, you know, what if the house isn't worth it? What if it's on a faulty foundation? What if, and it's just stopped me.
Right.
And I'm sure it's stopping a lot of people.
It does stop a lot of people. Think about value, right? Look at in 2008 when the market crashed, the people that held onto their properties and were like, dude, come on. This happens every 18 to 25 years. We're going to have another, it's going to freaking go back up. Those people look back at 2008 and go, dude, that was a little blip. I held my properties. They've paid down. They're now worth way more than they were before. Look at, since the day that we started tracking real estate trends, we've never, ever had a constant decline, ever. It's a dip and a reset every single time. So if you're holding a property, what do you care what the freaking property is worth versus what you owe? What do you freaking care? What you care about is the cash flow. Actually, for guys like you and me, you know why I buy most of my deals now? It's not about the cash flow. Cash flow has taken care of a lot of things in my life, but the main thing I'm buying real estate for now, depreciation. I do not want to pay taxes.
That's the hidden secret.
It is the hidden secret, and it's the compound. So like, think about this. For a pretty average real estate investor that's doing pretty well, let's say they make $1 million, make $1 million a year. Like a lot of the guys I hang out with, I think the minimum they're making is $1 million a year. Flipping, wholesaling, whatever. These guys are really only taking home like $450,000. That's it. Meanwhile, I'm making multiple $1 million and I'm taking home everything but $11,000. Last year I paid $11,000 in income tax, $11,000. And it was because of depreciation. Depreciation is the magic secret to all of this stuff. But the problem with it is that when you're trying to get people to take action, which is like the main thing I'm stressing out about in my life right now, like what is the solution to get everybody to take action? I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's podcasts like this and just continually hammering home to people until they finally like, you know, you hit something like a tuning fork or whatever. But the magical thing is depreciation. Look what Grant Cardone and these guys are doing. These guys are making like what did he say the other day? He sells $150 million a year in education, $150 million a year. And guess how much he pays in taxes? Nothing. Because of his multifamily properties, he takes the depreciation, he wipes out the gain from his other businesses. Everything flows up, right? So you've got my flip business, my constant close business, my title business, my whatever, all of my businesses, they all go and they pass me a K1 up to my main holding company. And one K1 says, you lost $3 million this year because of depreciation. And the other one, I made $1 million on flips. I made $1 million in cash flow. I made $1 million of this. It goes up and says, you made $3 million. Guess what? They equalize themselves out. And the IRS says, yep, you owe us no money. So now I get to keep my money. And guess what I do with it? I go buy more shit, more real estate. I go help more people. And the only way I buy rentals, the only way I acquire property, I will only acquire property through creative finance. It's so much easier. I don't have to go through appraisals. I don't have to go through banks. I don't have to go through applications.
Well, what if you buy a house and you didn't get an appraisal and you paid too much?
What do I care what I paid for?
Because you're just cash flowing it.
My tenant is paying the property down.
Well, but what about the one you live in?
I paid 3. It was worth 3. I paid 3, and now it's worth 3.5 or whatever, you know. But what do I tell people all the time, equity comes and equity goes, but the cash will always flow. What do I care what the freaking property is worth as long as it cash flows?
Well, if you're doing it for business, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But what if you want to live in it?
What do you care?
Well, I don't want to pay
What if
for
you
a house
overpaid
$4 million
$100,000?
and find out it's worth $2 million
What do you care?
because I have to pay for it.
Okay, then go get a loan and go buy something else. But if you want to buy something on seller finance, then sometimes here's what I see the average on seller finance. Seller has a property, let's say $3 million. They're typically wanting that $3 million. You know where sellers get their freaking number from? They don't do any research. They go to Zillow. So whatever Zillow tells them the property is worth, that's what they want. So are you really dramatically overpaying for a property? No. Every once in a while, I'll get a seller that goes, on my $3 million property, I want $3.5 million. I go, no problem.
Because you're seller financing.
Right, because I'm seller finance. I go, great. So you want your interest in that 500 grand? That's where you want your interest? They go, sure. I go, great. If you do a 0% seller carry, you carry that deal at 0%, I'll give you $3.5 million on paper. Because the reality, Brad, is if I buy a property at $3.5 million at 0% interest, I pay $3.5 million. If I bought the property at $2.5 million at 3%, I pay $4.5 million.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to the terms. How do I structure this? I don't care what the seller wants on paper. What I care about is what is my payment and can I get 2%, 1%, 0% interest on that seller carry?
So now people listening are obviously intrigued. They can go learn from you if they wanted to.
Or reach out to my students. I've got thousands of students.
I know,
all over the country.
but they could go pay some money and have you teach them. You have a coaching and a program for this.
Right, I do, yeah.
Is that Subto.com?
Subto.com.
So if you guys want to learn it, like just, like from scratch, start to finish through an actual curriculum, Subto.com.
The curriculum is really cool. It's education and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is we average 21 Zooms a week for our students. Okay. So every morning we do what we call the daily dial. So I have a girl that named Caroline. She's on my acquisition team. She runs a role playing for 4 hours every morning. So students get up, they get on Zoom, they all take turns role playing. They take their objections from the day before. We all throw it in the pot and they go, okay, all right, guys, what are the lines we have to use to overcome these 10 objections that came up yesterday? We just compile objection after objection after objection, and we overcome all those 4 hours every single day. And then we have something called open office. So they get to watch our team doing deals live all day long.
Is this all from the phone usually?
Zoom.
So is any state in the union?
Oh, any state, yeah. I have students in Alaska. I have students in Hawaii. I have students in Maine. I have students everywhere. I have students in Israel.
You want to keep it local?
No. So what we did geographically is we set up accountability groups so people have people to meet with physically and go on appointments with and all that kind of stuff. And most mentorships, what I see them do is they limit the access to the mentorship to like 6 months. And then they're like, you need to pay monthly afterwards. My students stay in for forever. And the reason being is think about my leaders that have been in there for a year and a half that are now making a couple $1 million a year. Do I want them to ever leave my mentorship? Hell no. I want them.
Because they bring you deals too.
They bring me deals. One of my students, I was on the phone when you came in here, Doug Lanza, never did a deal a year and a half ago, never did a deal, never has ever spent money on advertising. That's the cool thing about creative finance is I just tell all these wholesalers and real estate agents, bring me all the stuff you can't solve and I'll solve it. I don't ever have to pay for lead source if I don't want to. Now we have cold callers and all that kind of stuff. We use a company called startvirtual.com that does all of our cold calling and does our texting, and they bring leads to us. And then my team does fix and flips and wholesale deals off of those. And then we cherry pick the ones out of there that we want to do creative finance. But outside of that, I just have people bring me deals on my Instagram all day long. Like, hey, I've got a deal. Do you want this?
So if I find a deal and I just do this creative and I get the deed in my name, now technically it's mine. And then 6 months later, someone says, dude, I'll give you $4 million for that house or $600,000 for that house.
Happens.
I'm the one that gets to decide to sell it. And if I do, I deed it to them. Now, what about that last loan? Doesn't this person need that paid off?
No.
Well, how are you selling it then?
I'm selling it through a deed transfer. That's how real estate people.
No, I know, but I wouldn't get the money. I'd have to pay the house off.
No, you wouldn't. Oh, you mean from the cash? Like if you sold it for cash? Yes. So
Or if this person wants it in his name, he's got traditional finance, he's giving me 600
yeah,
grand.
yeah. So what happens is
They
you
would pay the note off, the
every
original
time.
note off, and I just get the difference.
Yes, that is
The
correct.
original owner would not get the difference.
No, they're out of the picture, right? They're
Totally.
100%. Now,
Interesting.
there's some really tricky things. Like there's some deals I've done where a seller's like, well, I want, y'all let you take over my house, but I want $50,000 when you sell the house. I go, okay, I don't care. Like, do you mind when that is? 10 years, 20 years? No, I just want a $50,000 check when you end up selling the house on the back end. I go, okay, great. So what we do is we call that a silent second. So we put that in a second position and it sits there silently. I don't have any payments. I don't have to do anything with it. But when I go to sell the property to the new owner and they have traditional financing, what do? We hire a title company. The title company does their research on the property. And what do they find? They find the underlying debt and they find the second lien position with that $50,000 lady, right? And that traditional financing comes to the title company. The title company disperses the money. First check goes to the mortgage, the first lien position. Second check goes to her 50 grand. Third check goes to me for the difference. There's 100 different ways you can structure this. I could go on and on and on.
So if I open up Zillow here in Las Vegas and I
Mhm.
say, kick ass $5 million houses,
Mhm.
how do I know who owns it? I go to Air DNA.
No, Air DNA is how I find out who or how much it's how I find out how much the house can bring in revenue on an Airbnb.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, so that's AirDNA. If I want to find out who the owner is, we use a company called Batch Driven. Okay, so basically what it does is it goes around and you can find the owner literally in 2 seconds, Brad. I can find the owner, I can get their phone number, their email, I can get their what they wore for
And then
freaking
you
church.
just call them and say, "Hey, I see you got 791 Whispering Spur for
Yep.
sale. I want to make a deal with you."
Yeah.
And what if they say, "Call my realtor"?
Well, they don't have a realtor. Then they know a realtor, but it's not listed. I'm not calling listed properties,
Oh,
guys.
you're
That's like
not?
hell no.
Oh, there's
Hell no. I
there.
would never call a listed property
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
because that's not a motivated seller.
So, but if they're not listed, how do you know they're selling?
So distress or so there's two things that we're going after. It's either people that are in pain or
Because usually they'd list that shit first.
no, they don't. No, I mean, where do all these wholesalers get this shit? We don't go. I
They knock
probably
on doors, we buy ugly houses.
most of the people nowadays are not knocking doors. We will knock doors. We have two guys that knock doors, but most people nowadays are cold calling. If company like startvirtual.com like probably has 1,000 clients that they cold call for, and that's all they do is they cold call sellers and they set appointments for you to talk to somebody who does not have a listed property. And what are they calling on? They're calling on people that are in foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce. Like the divorce list is huge because of COVID. So what we do is we go buy the data. The data says there's 7,500 people in town that are going through divorce. So we call those people.
You
We
just
go,
hope they own a nice house.
no, we know they own a house because the data is tied to it. We know that they own a house.
So it's a lot easier when you're looking to Airbnb and make money off of it.
From
It's-
a cash flow standpoint, yes.
Yeah,
But
'cause if you got to live there though, you're gonna be like right now. I'm thinking living.
well, let's
you know,
talk about that. Let's say you want to go to Nashville. Really simple.
Oh.
Okay. What I would do is I would buy a list of all the homes that are over $5 million in Nashville because that Bradley wants a $5 million plus home, right? I would have people cold call those people and say, would you be open to a seller finance type of offer at 5 million or somewhere around there? And you're going to get 90% of people say what?
No.
Hell no. Lose my freaking number, right? Just like any sales, anything you want to sell, any widget, anything, you're going to get 90 to 99% of the time you say no. But that's why you hire companies like Start Virtual, like everybody else does, and they just do the cold calling for you and they set the appointment for you to talk to the seller. So the first time you talk to the seller, you say, hey, my name's Brad. Sounds like you talked to somebody on my team about buying your property. Let's work out a deal. So what I would do is like my students or other people would literally line up 100 houses and I'd go, hey, Brad, there's 100 leads we have. Here's the houses. Do you want me to negotiate with any of these sellers? And you go, I like those two. It's that simple. But you have to go through and you have to pull a list of probably 7,500. You have to call all 7,500 10 times and you'll get a hold of 300 of them. And then out of those 300, you'll get 20 or so people that are like, yeah, I'm open to selling.
Do you think someone has influence? They could do a story and swipe up and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a house in Nashville, but only from distressed sellers."
Oh, I could do it right now. I could
And you'd get calls like, "This guy's really wanting out of his house.
Bro. Okay, so think about this. If you go to other wholesalers' YouTube channels, like look at Ryan Pineda, he's got a couple 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Those are people that are trying to learn wholesale. These people are all over the country, right? I've got so many people in my world that if I just go, guys, here's a list, I want you to go call it, I would have leads for me to talk to in any zip code in the country tomorrow. Like that's how easy this really is. This is not hard.
Specific towns, either Franklin or Brentwood.
Okay, so you want me to, we want to do this, and okay,
just to see if it's real.
Okay, we'll see. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna buy a list for you, and it'll be for my students. But I'll buy a list. It'll cost a couple $100, and it'll be all the data on houses that are over $5 million. And the data is like seller
in Franklin or Brentwood.
And you and I you'll tell me where all those are after the show. And what I'll do is I'll have my students and start virtual call all of those, and we'll set up appointments, and I'll call the sellers myself and go, hey, Brad, here's a house I got, seller financed, $100,000 down, $5 million purchase, 3% interest. You want it? And you'll go, no, I don't want that. I'll go, great, but you know it works. You want me to do it again?
As long as I can see it.
Right.
But I really will buy one.
I know you will. So that's the thing about this. There's buyers everywhere.
And then you know what I would do? I would say, Pace, how do I get a little team of people to now, because I don't obviously want more than one down there for myself. How do I get a team of people to start buying those $500,000 ones that we can Airbnb?
Same thing. So you
or multifamily, what do you call it?
Commercial?
No, the trailer parks.
Oh yeah, dude, those are great.
What are they called?
Mobile home park.
Yeah, I'll take those too. Anything, because once it's cash flow, who cares anymore?
Bro.
Now, what happens? You buy a house and all of a sudden the septic tanks cracked.
Happens.
So you got to just come out another $50,000 to fix it.
Think about this. If I'm somebody, like let's say I'm one of my students, and they are the ones that find, like I told my students I was looking for a property in Atlanta because I love Atlanta, probably the same way you like Nashville. I love Atlanta. If I could live anywhere, I would live in Atlanta. But
why don't you?
Because I have a child that's not mine, and there's a divorce situation.
Where do you live? Phoenix?
Phoenix, yeah. So, not my biological, but my son who I adopted has.
Yeah.
I can't move till he's 18. But I go
without permission.
Yeah, I mean we can we travel a lot with him, but
what if I can make that happen?
What?
Just give me Dad's number and I'll close him on.
Oh yeah, man. He won't even pick up the phone for me. Anyway, so the situation with Atlanta, guys, I want to buy a house in Atlanta, and I buy the list. My students call the list. They set up the appointments. I call. I go, yep, I want the house. I negotiate with Jillian. If I call Jillian right now, she'll go, hey, Pace, she's my seller. But guess what my seller is now? She's not. She's my freaking bank.
And a referral.
And a referral. She has I almost want to call Jillian right now. Do you care if I call Jillian right now? She actually has a house for me in Atlanta. She's like, hey, I'm going to call her.
Call her.
So, Jillian, one of my sellers, because these people, she's British, by the way, in Atlanta.
Want to get on more podcasts?
Yes.
Hi, you've reached Jillian.
She'll call me back. So Jillian is my bank, right? So these sellers are like, they become friends. They become homies. Like for years, I'm paying payments to them. They're my bank, right? My bookkeeper handles all that, so I don't have to deal with it. But here's the thing that's crazy, Brad. For anybody that's like, I want to do this, it is incredibly, incredibly easy. It's the lowest hanging fruit out of any business you could ever do.
Well, it sounds like.
Because
especially if you got a little coin.
Yeah, the only coin you need really is to buy the leads, right? So you have to buy data, and once you have that data, right, a list of sellers, you now have to pick up the freaking phone. That's it. So what happens with like this $1 million property with Jillian? I wasn't the first person that talked to Jillian. One of my students did because I bought the list in Atlanta. I go, hey guys, call this list. I want to buy it.
And what list did you buy?
Houses over $1 million. Any house over $1 million.
So you just pick what you want. Buy a list from
Batch Driven.
Batch Driven. So I call Batch Driven. I say, hey,
show me. It's online, batchdriven.com. You go, here's the zip codes I want, and here's the price point I want, and they'll email you a list.
Hawaii
like
$10 million houses.
Anything.
Boom. They send me this list. I either do it myself or I get a crew of people. They start calling. I say to them,
Mhm.
"Are you interested in seller financing?"
You
90 of
say
'em
you start by saying, "Are you open to selling your property to me?"
yeah. Someone says, "Depends on how much."
Great. And I go, "What would it take?"
They say, "Well, I don't know. I got to get it appraised."
Okay, go get it appraised and let me know what gets you excited. Let's work
Right.
out a
So you
deal.
just start the conversation.
Yeah, just start the
But at the end
conversation.
of the day, are you willing to sell this to me? They say, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Are you willing to do step 2 is are you willing to do seller financing?
Depends, right? So we do wholesaling and cash deals as well. So if they're like, "Give me 200 for a 350 house," which happens all the time, I'm buying that cash. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to make a chunk of money, right?
Yeah.
Because those chunks of money I can reinvest. But if they're like, "I want 200 grand for a $200,000 house," I go, "Great." I imagine nobody's been willing to give you that number because Brad, how many people are calling these sellers?
Um,
Hundreds of people are calling these
well,
sellers.
not unless, I mean, how do they know?
What do you mean?
They're
Uh,
not sellers, I thought. Because if they were sellers, they would have listed it.
This is the okay. So we got to break down what this industry is doing.
Like, I'll give you an example. There's
Yeah.
a very wealthy person here in town, calls my buddy, says, "Hey, I want to get rid of that house. I'll take 3 million. Just take it. Just
Mhm.
take it." My buddy says, because he bought a couple houses in California. He just wanted a smaller house here. So we said, pass.
Right.
That dude ended up selling it. He said, "Oh, screw it. I guess I got to list it." Listed it, got 3.8 for it.
Love it.
Just like that.
Yeah, there's situations
But
just like
that
that.
guy, even though he was wealthy, he wasn't distressed, but he
Right.
wanted the house gone.
Right. That's
And he
why I
didn't
said,
list it. He just called his buddies.
there you go. So I tell people that you're either looking for pain, you have a painful situation, bankruptcy, divorce, blah, 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 or you're a seller like Jillian who was looking for gain. Her house was worth 900 grand. I paid $1 million for it. Right. So she was like, I want to win. A lot of these sellers that are wealthy, Jillian's very wealthy. She didn't need to sell the property. She just wanted to. She's like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. I have 6 people in there living in it. I don't want to do an Airbnb. I'm older in life. I want to enjoy all my time with my husband. Now he's retired, all that stuff. But I want the number I want. And if I sell it today for 900 grand, guess what I'm going to get? I'm going to get $740,000 because of commissions and closing costs and all those types of things, right? Or maybe 800 grand. So for me, she's going to go with a realtor and sell for 800 grand, but go with me and get $1 million. Who the hell is she going to go with? People ask all the time, why would a seller sell to you? I'm like, 200,000 reasons why. That's why.
So are you saying that you believe that you could find me an actual deal
Yes,
in
Brad, I can find
Nashville?
you an actual deal.
In Franklin or Brentwood?
Here's the thing. Most of these guys out there teaching real estate, not most of them, a lot of my buddies that you've had on the show are legit guys. But there's a lot of people that are not doing deals. Bro, I'm driving to Reno tomorrow to buy one of these deals and I make millions of dollars. I don't
You know
need to
that's
be
an
driving there.
8-hour drive.
I know, but I love doing this shit. I love the storytelling. The lady, her name is Leilani. When I told her I could take over the payments on her house, starts crying to me. I have the record. I record everything I do. So Leilani's like, "Are you serious? You can actually do this?" So, dude, I love doing this. I'd love to tell the story of like, "Hey, look how easy this business is. We found a $5 million plus home in Nashville," and you might say no to it, right?
Why would I?
Because it might not be the floor plan you want, or it might not be something that you're like, I don't love that street or the corner or whatever. And that's the challenge with real estate investing. I don't mess with real estate agents. The real estate agents I work with, they bring deals to me because they're like, my seller wants too much money. There's no way I can get them that dollar. And they bring that deal to me. Or my seller doesn't have any equity. And if they sold their house to me, if they sold their house through me, they would have to write a check and they don't have the money to write a check.
Mm.
So I do work with realtors, but I'm never going to call a realtor that has a listed property. Are you kidding me? Realtors, that's like the easiest business to ever get into. You go pay $1,200, become a realtor. They don't know anything about real estate. I'm sorry for all the real estate people out there.
Well, if they knew, they'd be in the business.
They don't learn how to comp, right? They don't learn how to comp in school. They don't learn how to value anything. They don't understand how to actually invest in real estate. And they go there. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I mean, my wife's a licensed real estate agent. My business partner is a licensed real estate agent, but I would never waste my time to get a license. Never.
Now, when you're teaching other people, they go out and find these deals.
Mhm.
Are there a lot of times where they can't figure out the creative part, so they
All the
call
time.
you?
All the time. They don't call me because here's my belief is if you call me, now some of my leaders that have been in the program for over a year that we become really good friends, they stay at my home. Like I love these people, but not my average student is not calling me. What they do is we have a Zoom. Like today I have a 6-hour Zoom from 3:00 or from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight. And most educators are like 1 hour a week. Bro, I love this stuff. So I'll be on there 6 hours tonight breaking down deals. What do you got? All right, let me call the seller for you. Let me call you know what? You're not there's something I'm missing here. I have a student, Quashawn, last week. He starts telling me the story. I go, bro, you're not telling me something. Just give me the seller's phone number. Let me talk to him. I end up locking the deal up in front of 600 students. So if I had a one-on-one call, guess what? 600 people didn't get that value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so for me, no, don't call me.
And that's the subject to deal.
Yeah, that's the Subto stuff.
People need to like take a little chance, hit him up in his DM, talking about pace here, or go to Subto and get into the deal. Because we'll do worst case scenario, man. In 3-4 years, you got real estate that's went up in value, and you got freaking positive cash flow coming from renting it out. It doesn't always have to be fixed up to rent out either, just cleaned.
No, and not even that. So I don't need to get into that because you and I could talk all day long.
What about furniture?
Okay, so that's Airbnb stuff, right? So if you
Yep.
run an Airbnb stuff, then yes, I'm putting money in, right? There's two camps here, right? Telling people that there's 0 down, 0% interest deals out there shows them it's possible for you to get into this game without any money. It is
Or credit.
or credit, no cash, credit, or credentials. I tell that to people all the time. However, you want to go make this property dope, like my property in Atlanta. I bought it and it didn't need anything. Jillian left it furnished. But then after my 2 or 3 months, my Airbnb wasn't performing the way I wanted. So I went in and spent 20 grand to like furnish it out, right? But here's the thing. I wasn't the first person to talk to Jillian. Okay. I have a student named Maurice Grant out of New Jersey. Says, Pace, I got a live one. She wants to talk to you. She's ready to go. So Maurice brought me a deal, Brad. By the way, I pay 100 grand over retail for this deal because I bought it on terms. Paid 100 grand over retail, and I paid Maurice $10,000 to bring the deal to me. He didn't have to buy the deal. So the thing people don't understand is you don't have to hold these properties if you're not equipped to hold the property. Just assign the deal to somebody who is.
Yeah.
So for you, like in Nashville, what would happen is we'd get a student. One of my students would call. They'd set up an appointment. I'd close the deal. And I would have them assign the deal to you. Okay. It's a simple document called an assignment document. Okay. So they have the contract. They assign the contract now to you, and you're the one that closes on the deal. But guess what? You pay them a $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 finder's fee.
Let's go. How long you think you can find me a property?
I could find you a property to look at in less than a week.
Let's go.
But you're going to say no 3 times. And then what'll happen is on the 45th day, you'll go, that's the one. I freaking want that deal. That's what happened.
Well, the wife would be the one saying no. I say yes to any of them.
Well, I'm me too. I'm the same way.
To me, it's like no money. I mean, I don't even care if there's some money down, but like just no banks and encumbered,
no appraisals,
approvals and
no appraisals. Like there, you know how many times
that's what makes me like, I like that. Like if I just knew I wasn't getting ripped, because I saw a house, it used to be, I think it was Leanne Rhymes or is that her name?
Country singer?
Leanne
Yeah.
Rhymes. Yeah. It was a country singer's house. It was right on a lake. It was gorgeous. It was like $8 million. My wife wanted it big time. I'm like, $8 million. That's a little more than I wanted to go, but it was listed.
Yeah.
For 7.99. So it may not have worked,
Right.
but had someone called me and said, you want that house? Take over, seller financing or creative or whatever it is, sign your paper, give her, $1 million down or whatever. I'd have said, yep.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
All day. So
especially with no money down. I love the no money down
it's great.
shit.
It's great. I mean, think about this. If you're brand new and you're like, what's the average income right now? It's like $60,000 a year combined household income, right? 60 grand a year is what the average American. They're like, I want to quit my job. I hate this. You can do one Airbnb you can acquire it, seller finance or subject to, either way, and you can turn into an Airbnb. My average Airbnb is making me about $50,000 a year net after all expenses, my buffer account, all the bullshit that I put to the side, $50,000, $60,000 a year.
And depreciation.
And depreciation and appreciation.
And appreciation.
And the most magic thing when people say, make money while you sleep, do you know what they're actually referring to? Is the loan pay down. The loan that's getting paid down is not being paid down by you. It's being paid down by somebody else. Now, here's the most gangster thing about this too. Let's say in 20 years, my mortgage gets paid down by my tenants and I want a chunk of money. What do? Do I sell my property?
Get a loan against it.
I get a loan against it, and that loan is non-taxable.
Tax-free.
Tax-free money. That's what all these guys are doing. I want to go buy more property, so I pull a loan off of this thing. I don't need to sell it. I just pull a loan off of it 20 years down the road. Now, people that are listening is like, I thought you just do creative finance. No, I acquired it on creative finance. Now I can do a whole bunch of things with this thing. Now it's just, you could do 3-4 deals, hold 3-4 deals in your portfolio and quit. One of your husband or your wife, one of them could quit their job and just start doing it full time.
All right, last question. How much time does someone need to invest to take this thing seriously?
Okay, so
Because like I run businesses, several.
right.
I don't have time to dick with this. So like, because it gets me excited to want to go dick with it. I'm like, shit, dude. Then I'm like, oh man, I'm busy. How much time does the average person have to invest to take it somewhat seriously?
Okay, so it depends on who you are, and I'll break that down for just a minute. I'm very loquacious. I'm sorry. I'll talk forever. I apologize. So it depends on who you are. If you're low hanging fruit, like you just joined this business, what you're going to be doing, you don't have the money to take some of these deals down and invest into like furniture for an Airbnb or whatever. What are you doing? You're going to assign your first 3 or 4 deals so you can make a chunk of money and go, okay, I'm going to reinvest. Most of those people, what I tell them is if you just work 3 hours a day, you can do 2 to 3 deals a month. Okay.
3 hours a day.
3 hours a day, do 2 to 3 deals a month. But Brad, we all know this about human beings, don't we? How many people actually consistently will work for a solid week in a row? So like the main thing I work on in my program is not so much what's creative finance, because obviously we're great at that. It's more, how do we keep you consistent? That's the thing people are missing.
And it's really just making phone calls, getting a live one.
It's being around a campfire too. It's like if you have live Zooms, like the open office Zoom that we do, where everybody is making their calls together on an open Zoom and you see hundreds of people all making their calls at the same time, it's that campfire effect of like, oh, okay, I'm doing it alongside my homies. You know what I'm saying? So if you're that level and you're like, I have no money, I just need to get some cash in the bank, you're going to be 3 to 4 hours a day to do 3 to 4 deals a month. Then there's people like me, where Brad, literally, I have influence just like you have influence. If I make an Instagram post in my stories once a week and I go, guys, send me your shit that you don't want to deal with, I could buy a deal a day. Literally, I could buy $1 million of real estate every single day. It's crazy.
So if I post something,
you're going to have to tell realtors, wholesalers.
But as an influencer, if I post something and then just technically funnel it through me to you,
yeah,
I'd just be the middleman.
You'd either buy the deal or you and I would partner on like I would go sell. Let's say you go, I don't want that deal. I don't want to keep it. Great. We'll assign it to somebody else who wants it. Right.
Because you got a whole network of people.
There's how many landlords are in the United States? Tens of millions. So do you think those landlords want to buy more properties with no money down or low money down with no credit, no credentials?
Sure.
Right. So those are the people we call and go, hey, we've got a property. You own 3 properties down the road. Batch driven shows all this stuff. You own 3 properties down the road. Would you want another one? I've got one on terms, and that we assign it to them for $10,000. Right. So that's how easy it is. So in my position, I'm blessed, but it took me years to get there. I can just post things on social media and go, send me your crap deals. In fact, a lot of times what I'll do when I visit, I was just in South Carolina, North Carolina, Atlanta, Florida for like the last 2 weeks. And I'll go through states and I go, hey guys, who wants me to go on an appointment with some dead lead that you can't do anything with? And so people will just DM me and go, dude, I got this seller in Raleigh, North Carolina. Do you want to go meet with the seller? I go, yep, send me to the seller. It's that simple. There's already hundreds of thousands of wholesalers calling these sellers for you. Just tell them, I want the dead leads. I want the ones that you can't solve. I want the sellers that are open to selling, but they want too high of a price.
Could be strip malls, could be commercial, anything. Could be warehouse, could be storage facilities, could be anything.
Could be anything.
It's ridiculous.
Bro, it's insane. And I'm such a firm believer in like giving people my real addresses, because when I was learning, and I was like, I need to learn this. This is so dope. I can acquire properties 10 times faster with no credit and credentials. For people who don't know, it's like a W-2, right? Most people think I have to have a W-2 to go get a loan.
Not only that, but you know, when you're making some good money and you get good accounting help, they show you how to show no revenue.
Right. My
so where now you don't qualify.
0. Right. Unless I go to like a warehouse lender that gives me a 5% loan or something like that. But my average loan between seller finance and Subto is about 2% when you across all the tables. But when I first started, I went and paid a guy that had not done a deal in 10 years. 10 years. And so for me, I want to show people how this business is done. Like, I'm in it. Yes, I have a team. They do it all day long, but I can travel around the country and go, hey, let's go on an appointment together. Let's freaking go do a deal. It's like Jesse Itzler shit. It's like, bro, you got money. What are you doing? It's like, I love this, man. I absolutely love doing this.
Damn. Well, dude, I'm glad you showed up today. I can tell you that much. I think everybody listening is glad you showed up today. This is going to be one of those episodes that like somebody life is going to change because somebody's going to call you. Somebody's going to take action.
Right.
And a year from now, someone's going to say, dude, that episode is what changed it all. Probably several.
Yeah, I get a lot of that stuff from podcasts from 2-3 years ago. People go, I just heard your podcast. I did my first 2 deals this last quarter. I'm quitting my job. I get that all the time.
Dude, then let's give it, you say a week. Let's give it like 3 months or 2 months.
Yeah.
And have you come back after we've done a deal.
I'd love to do that.
Because I'll buy a house in Nashville.
I'd love to do that.
I'll buy a house anywhere, but obviously I'm not going to live in it anywhere. But I mean,
what would be dope is if we set you up an Airbnb in like Nashville or something like that. Even if we
or the beach,
where
like a beach house, like I don't care.
So
like I don't care where the house is. Like,
you don't care what beach.
I don't care as long as it's Airbnb-able.
Okay, cool.
And I own it.
Okay.
And I don't mind.
Do you know how many of my students will be like, I want to do a deal with Bradley?
And I don't care if I have to throw a little money into furniture or whatever. Yeah. But my question would be, damn, how come Pace ain't on this then?
Because like, bro, I can only handle so many things. You know what I'm saying? I buy deals weekly, but how many deals can I physically buy? You know what I'm saying?
Well, why don't you start a fund then?
So I'm not there yet. So like the backstory you haven't
Sounds
heard.
like you are.
Here's my problem. My number one problem. If I went to the book, Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, and it's like the one thing I need to fix in my life right now is that I love being addicted to the hustle. Like I love it. And while we have 600 employees that work underneath me between all of my verticals, 600 people rely on me all the time, but I have great systems and processes, great partners. I have great integration. Everything's amazing. But what do I always revert to? I want to go in people's living rooms and get contracts signed. So when I'm doing that, guess what I'm not doing? I'm not going out and building a fund.
That's right.
And so that's the one thing that in 2022, I'm going to be focusing. We have private lenders on some of our deals. We have about $5 million in private money. But it's not something I focus on. It's people that come to us and go, dude, I don't know what to do with my money and I don't want to be a real estate investor. Here's a couple $100,000 and we go flip houses with it. Stuff like that. But going and building a fund. So what I want to do, like in Yuma, my big goal for 2022 in acquisition mode is I want to buy another 50 Airbnbs and I want to buy 300 more mobile home units only in Yuma. And then what I'm going to do in Yuma is I'm going to start a property management company that manages my properties. And then I'm going to go to all the mobile home parks in Yuma and start managing all those properties. But at some point, it's like, do you need any more money? Like, what do you, Jesse Itzler, that freaking podcast you did with him really blew my mind. I've listened to it 3 times. And it's like, bro, your wife is a billionaire. You're a billionaire. What the freak are you doing? It's like, I just
living
love
life. He
doing
loves
this.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the cool thing too is like you and I both have daughters. I've got a baby coming. Also, my wife's going to give birth on the TV show in like 2 months, which will be kind of cool.
Congrats.
That'll be good. So it'll be my second daughter. And I get to travel with them everywhere I go. It's like, hey, I'm going to go speak. My wife's here in Vegas with me this week. Like she gets to hang out with me. My kids are with me. So I'm living that same life with Jesse Itzler, except I'm not flying on private jets yet. And so I'm living that life already. And so going and building a fund and doing the Grant Cardone thing, is that really what my motivation is? Do I really want to be Grant Cardone and like do that? The dude's epic, but that might not be me.
Not only that, I mean, he's addicted and obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that he like enjoys life like normal people. He enjoys life because he's addicted and he's every day, all day, he's in that game.
Right.
Like personally, I wouldn't want to be that deep, or that responsible. Like I like it to where like Jesse's life, I'll take that one.
Oh, bro.
You know, his big calendar where he pre-plans all his kick-ass shit before he even does any work shit at all. And then the work shit he does is stuff that he loves.
It's epic.
Yeah. It's a good life. He'll be over there at Thrive with you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to meeting him. I've never met him before.
He's a good dude, man. He's a real good dude. Folks, if you guys ain't following Pace by now, you better go check him out at Pace Morby. If you already are, then you know what I now know. And that is you better get in somehow get in business with you. Subto.com at Pace Morby and website pacemorby.com. Appreciate you guys listening. Rank this bitch up by going out and giving me a review. Make sure if you have a property or a situation that you're looking for, either DM me or just hit Pace Up directly.
Guys, if you send us a deal that's a challenging deal or a lead that you're talking to, well, I'll make a whole YouTube video about it. I'll call the seller, I'll work out a deal, and I'll do a collaboration. So if anybody has a lead that they're having a hard time with, send it to me in my Instagram DMs, and we'll work it together on a YouTube video.
Tell them Bomb Squad sent you.
That's right, baby.
Till next time, keep it real.
Dropping bombs with the real Bradley. Subscribe now.